It's been over 2 years since I went back home to Quebec in Canada. COVID hit just as I was starting to plan my return trip in the summer to coincide with my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. Needless to say, that didn't happen. It was an emotional trip and a very stressful one to organize. All the tests I had to do, all the documents and checks, all the online work was really something else. But Canada wants to keep its citizens safe, and I completely understood the reasons why all the precautions were necessary. It also made my own journey safer. I was met at the airplane door by my cousin, who had bid to work on that flight so that she could see me. It was wonderful, it was a great surprise, and I hadn't seen her in person for about 4 years. We cried and hugged each other, much to the amusement of the other passengers as they were trying to get on the plane. It was so lovely to see her, and for her to do this for me is something I shall never, ever forget. I rented out a chalet for the first week, just to make extra sure that I was not infected before I stayed with my parents. The chalet was right on the North River, in a little village near my parents' house. It was perfect, cozy, and even the neighbors' cats made me feel at home. The ducks that floated down the river and then flew back up to the chalet, they were my constant companions. I even saw some deer crossing the river, heading towards the nature reserve, probably to escape any hunters now that the hunting season had opened. I took another test after a week, and then when I got the all clear, I went home to my parents' house. I just hugged my mom and cried and cried. It was really emotional. It was so good to be home, to feel safe, and to be able to be with family again. The autumn colors were just beginning to appear. The warm, sunny days were perfect for spending outside in nature. Every day, the majority of my time was spent out of doors, soaking it all in. I climbed mountains, went biking, visited lakes and rivers, and went to all my old haunts. The North River holds a special place in my heart. In the village where I grew up, there are some fantastic rapids where the old paper mill used to be. The water was low, but it was still a beautiful sight. I walked in the woods on the mountain behind my parents' home, taking the trails I had wandered when I was a teenager, spending time on my own with just the trees, the rocks, and the eyes of the fair folk upon me were just what I needed. To see the turning of the tide, the leaves changing color, and the forest floor carpeted in these glorious hues, it filled my heart with joy. The trees are a lot taller than when I was younger, and we have all grown up since those bygone days. I also visited the valley, a special place where when I was younger, the horses that pulled the sleighs in the winter were kept over the summer. It was also a refuge, a sanctuary for rescued horses. Back in the day, I would spend hours there with the horses, just being. Occasionally, I would scramble up onto one of the horses, and they would take me for a leisurely ride wherever they wanted to go, if they wanted to move at all. The horses are no longer there, and the valley is all overgrown with beautiful wildflowers. This valley was home to me, a wonderful place of quiet and sanctuary, literally and metaphorically. At the top of the valley were some hills, where the horses could wander up out of the valley and onto higher ground. Here was a great view of the mountain and the forest where I would roam, with only the blue jays, the squirrels, and the chickadees to pay me any mind. I sat on this hill and looked out towards the east and the mountains over which the sun and moon rose. It was a place of solitude and reflection. I met a young woman who was wandering there, and she reminded me so much of myself over 30 years ago. I asked if I could take her picture, and she reminded me of myself so much when she grinned and said, "Of course." And now I have this moment captured forever, not only in my mind, but as a photograph. She was sitting in the exact spot that I used to sit looking over the mountain. I had met my own self. As the weeks passed, the colors on the trees grew brighter and brighter. Doncaster River, the best colors presented themselves alongside the rushing waters. This river empties out into the North River downstream, but before then it rushes past large rocks and channels through the forest in many enchanting ways. It's another very special place. And then, as always, it was time to leave. Leaving my family and coming home was difficult. For the first week, my jet-lagged body felt as if it was in two places at once, as did my soul. I felt half in this country and half still home in Quebec. It feels like I'm always in more than one world at a time, which might be why I'm so fascinated by the fair folk in the other world and why I have my own hedge tradition. I know that it's very much a thing with me to know what it's like to have a foot in more than one world. Eventually, as I spent more and more time back home in Suffolk, I came more and more home to myself and to the land. Spending time with the stags on the heath certainly helped, and it was like seeing old friends. Some of the young ones had certainly grown up over the last year, and some old friends like Boromir, Faramir, and Aragorn were still there. They allow me to get quite close, as they now know me from spending so much time together, and they allow me to photograph them before they bound away, as if saying, "Come with me, I know the secret places." And they do. So now I am here in rural Suffolk, quietly getting back to work. The leaves are still very green, but they're starting to change, and I can feel autumn starting here too now. It's my favorite season, and I'm ready to start saying goodbye to summer and to welcome in winter's darkness. The crows and the jackdaws are gathering in large numbers, the robin is singing in the hedge, and the golden light is all around. This, along with many wonderful memories, will keep me going through the long winter months ahead. October blessings to you all.